Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Tom. What's up, buddy?
Hello, friends.
Yeah, good to have you there. YouTube was worrying me for a moment. I don't know if you saw it, Tom, but YouTube was down for like a good hour before the show was about to start.
That would make a whole lot of sense because my kids were complaining that the internet wasn't working, and by internet they meant YouTube.
Sure. Well, that's
And I was
all.
like,
That's all the internet is for children.
right, exactly." And I was like, "It's fine. It's my son is probably just eating up the bandwidth on our like fiber connection." And I was like, "Nah, it's probably fine." Well, I'm glad that YouTube didn't break.
Yeah, indeed. Well, it did break for a while, but that's okay. It's
Right.
back now. They got my, as I said in the comments, they got my strongly worded letter that they better have these pipes back up by the time our show's about to start. So,
Yeah. No. Totally. I'm
real.
glad they fixed it.
I gave them a whole "Do you know who I am?" and they of course snapped right too. No doubt, no doubt.
Checks out.
All right, so tonight we're going to be talking about scenarios. We're going to go deep into battle plans. We're going to be talking Marathi next week. I want to give a chance to get the book out, actually read the thing, like formulate opinion, not just from secondhand internet photos and stuff like that. So my book should be here, of course, this week. Very, very excited about it, but we'll be deep diving on
I'm
that
so
next
excited.
week.
I am so excited.
Beyond
Like,
man. This is the best, seemingly the best type of product that they've done in a long time. Like, I am real excited about this product.
like really excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it seems like they've nailed a lot of stuff on the head as to what needed to be fixed.
Yeah. Agreed. Also, that story is like, pretty tops from what I've seen of it so far. I haven't got to read all of it, but I'm excited. At any rate, that's for next week. This week, let's start with some news. What do we got, man?
Pew Pew Stormcast arrows.
That's right. Yeah, the rumor engine is Stormcast arrows. So we're getting a new Stormcast character of some kind. So that's cool. Stormcast Warcry Warband. Stormcast unique character coming along with Broken Realms.
Nope. It is a special edition model.
All right.
That is a like Judicator captain.
Okay.
And it's like a store opening model for the year, or it's the whatever. Because if you look, all of the named Stormcast people are like captains or people in normal units.
Sure.
And we've gotten them for like Liberators, right?
Yeah.
A couple for Liberators. But we haven't got any Adjudicators.
Gotcha. So your thought is like this would have been the, let's say, the 2021 convention model. Because like often they'll have a 40K and an AOS model they give out for sort of the whole year at conventions and things like that, right?
Yep. Or this is the model that you get on like store birthdays this year.
Sure. Like some kind of special edition, special occasion, all the different reasons they've thought of to do that.
Yep.
Conventions, store birthdays, Flag Day, Armistice Day, all the big ones.
All of them. Independence Day. That's real big for the Brits, I hear.
They love it. They love it, yes. At this point, I think they probably are happy they got rid of us. So I don't disagree with that call at all. I think that's highly likely. I mean, I don't think you should rule out like a Broken Realm special character. We know when we got the 40K Psychic Awakening.
Sure.
They released,
but we've already had a Stormcast. Like we've already had the Stormcast associated launch.
We've had some Stormcast in Marathi. You're kidding yourself if you think that's the last Stormcast we're getting in the Broken Realms books.
It might be. The other thing it could be is it could be another warband for Underworlds,
right?
In the new season, like that uses Judicators because we haven't had any Underworlds warbands that use Judicators yet.
Sure. Yeah, I mean the point being, none of our guesses were a new chamber.
Right.
That's the take home there. Right? Zero guesses of this is the Herald of a New Chamber. And it's either a supplementary game, Warcry, Underworlds, something like that, or a special edition model for either, generic non-book release stuff for special occasions or a Marathi model. So yep. And yeah, I have the there's no universe where Stormcast aren't in not just most books, or not just this one book, but most books. Let's say we get 6, is my prediction. If it's less than 3 out of 6, if we bat less than 50% on Stormcast, I'd be like, wow, that's surprising to me. That would truly surprise me. I would be surprised.
I got nothing.
Yeah. Get ready. Tuck in. I mean, there's so much more to explore with them. By the way, can we get our Skaven in the next one? That's all I want. Just anytime we start touching Skaven. And then with that, release the new Eshin stuff. Or book 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, as I said last week. Anyways. What I'm saying is I want new Ninja Rats. That's what I'm saying.
No, I get it. It's legitimate.
Yeah. All right, what else we got in the news?
We got it was announced that there's going to be a new solo play AOS in the new, so there's a scenario during COVID that was in one of the White Dwarfs that let you play AOS solo, and that is another one of those is going to be coming in a forthcoming White Dwarf.
Well timed. I wonder if they rushed that to the press when they heard that the UK was going back on
lockdown.
Hardcore lockdown. Yeah, I don't know. If not, boy, talk about a well-timed release. Did they nail that one or what?
Couldn't have been more on the nose.
Yeah, indeed. So, yeah, cool. I think Uncle Adam just last week was asking for more solo play stuff for AOS, and he was surprised that it wasn't more readily available. And then, well, here you go. You're ready to go.
Boom.
They heard you.
Done. Responsive. Look at that customer service.
That's right. They deliver. Who've said solo play? That's my life. Aw. Well, if you'd come to some events, Hooves, once there's events again, buddy. You came to one. It was great to see you. We want to see you again. I expect you to be at Nova this year if it happens, which I fully expect it to, and have zero doubt in my mind. Here we go. That's right.
Sure.
It's September. Let's wrap this up. Okay. I'm saying the thing is in September.
Yep.
Okay. So, which White Dwarf issue is it in? The newest one, 487, I think is the number. That sounds right off the top of my head.
The next one.
Yeah, the one that's releasing.
I saw a piece of news drop today. Team USA announced their new lineup for the hypothetical 2021 season. So shout out to those that made it on the team. Some of our friends to the north, Jake and Sean of the Detroit Club, made it on the team this year. So congratulations to them. Jake and Sean inevitably play Vince and I whenever we do teams every year at Havoc.
Yeah.
And so, so congratulations, gentlemen, and the rest of you who made the team this year. I hope that you all get an event.
Nice. It's I hope they get to actually play some. They're two of the best. Right. They are two of the best players I have ever played against. They make games where you're my teammate, bearable to play against them. And they're also two of the nicest people.
I'm helpful in those scenarios.
No, I'm saying that they're so positive that they overcome your negative of being my teammate. That's the
that's legitimate. Yeah, that's
right.
fair.
Yeah, my experience is running at a -5 because you're my teammate, and then they're there with a +10, so they're bringing me back into positive territory. You see.
Yeah. Do they do that when Sean puts down woods around your marker?
That wasn't their fault. I don't blame them at all for that. I blame bad rules design for that. And it's not. He had trees. He didn't That's just what it is. He was playing Sylvaneth. What are you gonna do?
So, well, excellent. But congratulations to Team USA on picking their team. So go get them, boys. And then finally, Marathi. Broken Realms drops this week, folks.
Yeah.
We've had a bunch of videos that are all over the YouTubes. A bunch of content producers are doing the blitz. Man Reads Book has read book.
Which is Ash from Guerrilla Miniature Games. Somebody did say last time when we make the joke, we should actually say who he is because not everybody might not know, and he is a very nice person who's doing good content. So yes, Ash from Guerrilla Miniature Games, but all colloquially known as Man Who Reads Book.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're all excited. Review coming next week. Get into it. Okay. All right. So, the only other news is that apparently the second Broken Realms story dropped, but I haven't seen it in my email yet. So, I'm waiting. Somebody said it dropped. I haven't gotten it yet.
What dropped?
The second Broken Realms story. Somebody said that it dropped like right before sometime today. But I haven't gotten my email yet. So, I did sign up for the little newsletter thing, so.
Well, my pick of the week is Broken Realms related, and I am so excited.
Well, that's pretty much all the news. It was a quiet news week because Blood Bowl thing.
It's so quiet.
Yeah, which is fine. I'm okay with it, honestly. Let's get Marathi out. Let's all get excited about that. And then 2 weeks from now, please tell me when the next book is coming. Thank you very much. Let's start this hype train rolling again. All right. So what is your pick of the week, Tom? Let's just roll right into it. Let's do some pick of the week.
Friend of the show, 2+ Tough, has been doing an amazing set of content around summarizing the narrative for the campaign, for Broken Realms. And he's done 3 videos. His 3rd video dropped. I think he's doing a video every day this week, as he's going through the narrative. And I love it because I don't have to actually read the narrative. I just have to listen to him. Like, I'm sure it's fine. Like, I'm sure GW's writing is fine. It's fine. But I love being able to like put on Doug and just listen to him summarize all the major narrative moves as I do something else. With wonderful, beautiful graphics and like background.
Quality content production is what you're looking for. In other words, what we don't do
so
here.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, like nothing like what we do. Like, he's super professional. Yeah. And so y'all need to go watch those vids. We'll link them in the comments below. They are they're really good. So he's done 4 of them. He did like an introduction one, and then he basically did like the first 3 parts to the story. And clearly Marathi, she has an agenda, and she's going to get some business done.
Oh, yeah, I want to let's do mention that. So Manzak Miniatures just made a comment around something that did drop that you and I talked about. I didn't include it in the news, but I'll mention it since it was mentioned here because I don't know that it's actually news. They showed the next store coins. Obviously, the Marathi one was the first coin, and then they also showed that one is a Death Guard coin. Fine, we know the Death Guard Codex is coming, and the one is the Hedonites of Slaanesh. And so that could mean that we're getting a Hedonites release in January, which I would be very excited about. Bring on those leather daddies. Here we go. Or it could just be the other half of Shadow and Pain.
Like, didn't we get a Hedonites of Slaanesh book?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is right now. The existing book is Slaanesh. It's Hedonites. That's the thing.
Yeah, like, they can't drop another one of those books, like, in February.
Well, it would be the mortal-focused one. Which, by the way... The Lord out of Shadow and Pain points to there being a Mortal Slaanesh release quite strongly, since his command ability it only works on Mortal Slaanesh units, of which there is 1, basically, 2 technically, but Chaos Riders in the book. No, Mortal Hedonites.
Oh, Mortal Hedonites. Oh, interesting.
Okay. Yeah. And there are the 2 House Riders, the only ones in the actual book. Now, keep in mind, the like Archeon there's Archeon, Celeste, and the Hell's Riders. Those are your 3 mortal Hedonites right now. That's a very limited set of targets for that buff.
No, I mean, I think what you'll get is you're not going to get a book. You're going to get a Broken Realms like Battle Tome update for Hedonites.
There's just not enough. My point is there's not enough mortal stuff. Bring on the new book. Bring on the release.
I mean, maybe.
Yes. I say bring on those leather daddies. We all want it. Okay. My pick of the week Tom, you covered the narrative. I absolutely agree. Doug's videos are awesome. If you want a preview of some of the rule stuff before we talk about it next week, check out Honest Wargamer, Honest Wargamer's Robs. He did a great review of it on his Monday show. I'll link that down below. And he goes blow by blow, has a nice presentation with all the changes. One thing I'll say, Tom, is that these rules changes that are coming here in Marathi on a couple of these units, like the dock stuff, is actually quite complicated. Because if you just bought Marathi, all right, assume you just bought Marathi.
Yes.
You would have a very different perception of what dock is going to be like if you didn't also get the rules from Shadow and Pain that changes a significant number of the dock war scrolls. Okay? As well as their points. Doug's channel is 2+ tough. 2, the number, plus tough. It'll be linked in the description. Actually, it's 2 the letter, or 2 the word, sorry. Anyways, I'll link it down below. Yes, there you go. So there are so many rules changes that are spread out over this release because you have Shadow and Pain, right? The box set that changes a bunch of rules. Like around many war scrolls. You have what's coming in Marathi, and then we still have the little Umbraneth Warcry band that we have no idea what the points for those guys are. No clue. Can't put them in an army yet. We all want to. Real bad. But we don't have points for them yet.
It's true.
We have Warcry rules, which is cool. But anyways, with those 2 videos combined, you will be able to Wonder Twins activate all of your knowledge of Marathi, even if you don't have the book. So there you go. I do hope that they release an article on the community page kind of explaining the changes to Doc. I think that would do them very well because there are a lot of changes to Daughters of Cain between those 2 products, and it's actually, if you haven't bought both, which, by the way, I'm guessing a lot of people haven't bought Shadow and Pain, even if you're a Doc player, you probably aren't buying Shadow and Pain because you already have an army.
Right.
How are you going to know that all your stuff just changed until the app updates, which could be... Who knows? Right? Like, they've been slow on the app updates. So
yeah, it'll be interesting because they're changing war scrolls and stuff. Like, we know that this leaked out this week, or it's in the images from Shadow and Pain, is that the shooter snakes are going to 2 attacks a model.
Sure, I mean, shooter snakes are 2 attacks a model. The Crystal Touch is no longer an attack and so can't be buffed. It's now just an end of combat ability. The Heart Renders can't gain an attack but can't drop in turn 4 or 5 anymore. Right? So they have to come down by turn 3 like every other thing like that in the game.
Right.
So there's just all sorts of changes that are all over the shop that vastly change sort of the way you would expect to play with the army. Right? Because, I mean, I think we all said... When we first got the drops, we were like, oh my god, 50 million crystal touches, it's going to be amazing. And then it was like, no, of course not. Stop that.
You're like, nah.
Although it's fine. That unit is a blender. Like, they did gain 1 extra regular attack of their stabby halberd attacks as well, by the by, on the snake profile. I mean, their average damage is huge. Huge. When you put even a modicum of the regular buffs you would expect to be on them in Doc, and I'm not talking about if you apply the ones that cannot in any way be negated, you understand what I'm saying? Like just the Blood Rights table and say a Witch Brew, like a sippy cup, you know what I mean? Like things that don't get cast, can't be negated, can't fail on a prayer, whatever. They, a unit of them, a small unit of them, like 10, a perfectly reasonable number to hit, to go attack at any point in time. Right? Because their reach can go over the top of each other, so it's very likely that 10 of them could fight. Because if you can get 5 and 5 behind them. That's 20 to 30 damage, just on actual attacks against a 4-up save. That does work. I'm not counting end-of-turn mortal wound stuff.
I hear that.
Band. That's better than any giant in Sons of Behemoth.
That's not saying a lot. I mean, what I'll say is that I'll just make this brief comment and then we'll move on.
Sure.
I have not been real impressed with the snake changes. And not only these changes, but also the new hero. I understand that the command ability is good. I've been thoroughly unimpressed.
Fair enough. Well, we'll discuss it all next week.
And we'll deal with all of that next week.
Yeah, we're gonna get deep into it. Next week, Coach is going to be our guest next week, and I'm going to warn you in advance, Coach, next week is going to be a long show. So get into it, because there's a lot to talk about. But this week, Tom, let's move to some hobby time, buddy. We're flying through these. What do you got? What have you been working on? You got anything in this week?
I cleaned He-Man toys this week.
Is that a euphemism?
No, it's really not. Like, I could show you over there, and there's like Castle Grayskull and Skeletor's Castle, and yep. I'm cleaning out hobby, like collectible stuff, making some space, and that's what had to go this week. So I worked on some Warhammer, just kind of dinked around, looked at stuff, but like when stuff like this is moving big time, like I am slow to want to commit to armies.
I see.
Because I mean, again, the whole Stormcast world I was like, I'm gonna do Stormcast, and then the whole world just got turned upside down with the Stormkeep stuff, and I'm like, okay, yeah, probably not.
I mean, I think there's so much good potential in Stormcast right now, but we'll talk about that. But
it's not going to be in what I was going to be painting.
Sure, but I mean, you've got some of that's going to be in what you're painting. But either way, you'll need to find your
list.
Hold
on, I have to do this. Can you see my? Can you see my Castle Grayskull over there?
Yes, Tom, we can see your Castle Grayskull.
Somebody in the audience asked for all of my He-Man toys.
Gotcha.
So, there we go. See, that's what I've been working on. I have actually been doing that. So.
Gotcha. Well, you just made our audience have vertigo, but that's fine.
Yeah, well, that's why they, that's why they check in here.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is once you get your head around it, get the book, and get to absorb it, you're going to find some Stormcast lists you're pretty excited about. That's my general feeling. Because I think there is some real good Stormcast stuff in there. So, there you go. Well, my hobby time has not been lazy, like Tom. No. So, I'm finishing up my big boy here. My converted Mega Gargant. He's got his big grippy claw arm and his little smashy club. I still got a little bit more work I need to do on him. Got his little metal leg there. And here's a fun thing. As I was painting him today, I was flipping around and I looked, and I don't think this is going to be visible on camera, but maybe. It's probably not. On his back, on his beautifully, beautiful back that I was so happy with, there is a streak of gold paint that when I wasn't looking, I took my brush and went zip and ran right up his back. And that made me sad.
Aww.
Because I can't get that off. And I was like, well, okay. Gotta fix that. Easy enough. That's fine. We can fix it. I've got both their bases here. I've got two big megas. One's back there. He's got his skin done, but just his skin, and he's drying. Here's both their bases. You'll notice that they're stepping on top of broken, smashed Idneth Deepkin boats, as well as this guy. That is part of Teclis's base there. Also
did you buy Teclis?
No, somebody was very nice and had some extra Teclis bits from the base, like part of because he made a custom base for Teclis, and he sent me all the rocks from Teclis's base. So I have just so much dumb elf stuff crushed up on here. It's wonderful. I was very excited about it. So their bases are almost done as I throw them around the room. So yeah, this guy will be done soon. And then after that, Andy was nice enough to send me this incredible bust from Diergaard, their Kickstarter. We're going to do an interview with he and Henry on the channel this Saturday, so come check that out. It'll be at 10 a.m. Eastern, and we're going to talk to them about the Kickstarter. This bust is so incredible. If you're at all interested in anything Diergaard, or like you love busts, I cannot explain how good the quality on this thing is. This went together so easily and smoothly for a resin model. There was like one mold line I paid any attention to. This is one of the most beautiful castings I've ever had the good pleasure of putting together. So,
Wow.
it's incredible. I'm real excited about it. This is my reward for when I get the giants done. Right? So, like, when I get the army finished, this is my that's my reward. So there you go.
Right.
All right. Yeah, exactly. Vince the painter. Can we fix it? Yes, we can. So we can always fix it. You can always fix anything on a model. So I wasn't thrilled that he had a big gold streak up his back, but yet it's okay. It's all right. Maybe he'll have a tattoo there now. I guess that's what's going to happen. Or I could run a big cut along his back and have him bleeding. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. We'll find out together. All right. When am I going to do a painting book Kickstarter? Never, because I'll never have that amount of time that I have the time to put together a book. My life does not have that amount of free time. Okay. So, Tom, let's talk scenarios, buddy. You ready?
Sure.
All right. I thought this would be fun because, you know, we a bunch of the scenarios changed, but we never really deep dove into them and really talked about them in a granular way. And there's been so much change since GHB and kind of the armies that are out there and what we think the meta looks like. And our hope is that obviously 2021 is going to bring back events, right?
Yep.
We already see lots of places in the world that are having events. For example, if you're in Australia, there's some kind of event going on, probably still small, but some kind of event going on most weekends, right? So congratulations on that. There's lots of TTS events going on. And so I thought this would be a great time to talk about that. So let's do this. Let's see if this works. Ready?
Okay. Neat. No, I'm here. Can you hear me? That's amazing. Yep. And everybody's saying you're muted now.
You know what? Let's just go back to this. There we go. Okay. There you go. Audio back. I'll fix it later. We'll do it next time. Tom, you don't get to be on screen. I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine.
There we go. All right. Tom gets to be invisible. I thought I fixed it, but I didn't fix it.
Nope.
All right. There we go. Now we're back. Sorry, everybody. Tried to do a nice thing. Didn't work. I'll fix it for next time. So we can do PowerPoints easier, Tom. I tried to make a new little scene that worked, but apparently it didn't work. That's all right.
Yep.
So let's talk some scenarios here. We'll go ahead and go into... There we go. All right. So, Battle for Zipas. These are all in alphabetical order. Okay. So I want to talk about kind of the nature of these. And I want to really get Tom into... Like, we'll cover the basics of it, and then I want to talk about your experience with it, how likely it is you think you see it at a tournament, and what armies do well at it. Okay? That's how we're breaking these down. You ready?
Yeah.
So, Battle for the Pass, key points. It's lengthwise deployment.
Stop.
What?
You won't see this at an event.
Thank you. We'll get there. That's fine. That's not the...
Like,
we're going to
we don't
review
need to
other
cover
ones
that.
beyond that, Tom. But yeah.
Like, we don't actually need this one because I love it. I love the... To be clear, I love the scenario. But, like, lengthwise deployment like this is a non-starter.
Yes, which I have written down. So, lengthwise deployment, rare for tournaments, But we should still talk about it. Yes, I agree. You will rarely see this at a tournament. I wouldn't say never. I've seen a couple of tournament packs include this. But it is rare because lengthwise at a tournament, you're usually like, right tables are right against each other. So the ability to actually play end to end is almost non-existent, right?
Yep. Yep.
So things I have written down. It's very difficult in this scenario to like flank your opponent because you're on the lengthwise, right? So it actually becomes very hard to get around. People, even with small armies, can usually block out the horizontal or the across the board movement. Ambush and teleport are very, very strong just because of how much space there is behind you, right? Mm-hmm. It becomes very, very hard for a lot of armies to actually, prevent you from just dropping right behind them, right?
Yep.
And it frequently, if you're on a sort of normal horizontal deployment, you can pretty much keep people out of your zone. But unless you've got a fair amount of board control, somebody's going to be able to drop either directly behind you or often slightly to the side, right?
Yep.
And so point wise, this one's pretty straightforward. Your objective in your territory is 1 point. The center ones are 2. The enemy home objectives are 4. Not to be overtly focused on giants, but there obviously is, barring the FAQ, the ability for giants, specifically the Kraken Eater, to kick the objective out of your starting territory because it's only 6 inches off. His average kick is a 7, right?
Right.
And then remove that as from being a 4-point objective. It would then be in the center zone and only worth 2 points to your opponent. And your opponent would and to you, by the way. And your opponent would no longer have a 4-point objective.
No, the more enjoyable one of that is you kick the middle objectives into their area and turn them all into 4-pointers.
Sure, absolutely. It takes either the 3d6 kick trait or a long kick because it's 12 inches off. Yeah. So.
Yep.
But yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Battle for the Pass isn't for a tournament. It's a shame because I really do like this scenario, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah. Just changing it to the lengthwise and the nature of like how you're trying to get at theirs and how much more value you get out of holding theirs for even one turn, right?
Yep.
It's crazy what you can get out of this. Even if you sneak their objective for one turn, them losing the 1 point, you gaining 4, right? Causing this like 5-point swing in the score.
Yep.
Usually we'll just win you the game, assuming they don't do the same to you, right? If you can even get it for one turn and you stop them from taking yours, you basically win this scenario. That's it.
Yeah, right? I mean, the question ends up like, can you rotate the board?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like this one, like I remember like one of I played a variant of this, and I remember back at NashCon in year 1, and we talked about going into the scenario, and you're like, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, and you're like, well, just rotate, and I was like, well, what do you mean? And from that point, there's one strategy that you do with this. Yep. You pivot, you sweep your army one direction or the other, and you just pivot.
Yep.
And it's like, yes, like that's the answer. And so the question is like, can you pivot far enough to take their objective?
Right.
Yes or no, maybe.
Yeah. To put a pin on what Tom is saying there, the key is when you have your zone, like what you'll ideally do is sort of tangentially take one of your objectives that you don't really care about with just some little chaff unit on the backside of 6 inches and hold it. But your actual goal is to take your army and hard either echelon left or right. So you're literally trying to create a U on the board, like go zoop and swoop around, and you sweep your whole army like that. You pivot around. And the goal is for you to rotate and adjust faster than they can respond and react.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and if you have teleporting, if you have the ability to pick up, if you have the ability to drop, all those things can help you create that reformed line very quickly.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think this is maybe not, it's certainly not the only, but it's one of the strongest scenarios for ambushes and teleports, right?
Yep.
Because the nature of how hard it is to control board space on this, and the push and pull of it, right?
You just can't zone out like more than 2 objectives reliably.
Right. Unless you're
Yeah.
playing some absolute flood the board army like, BOC or something like that, where you could just throw bodies everywhere.
FEC ghouls.
Sure, yeah, like a
Yeah,
Morgont, like a
Morgott
Morgont, yeah. Where it's just 140 ools, whatever. And yes,
then
Tristan
you're
Gray
just
said
playing more.
Tokyo Drift the board. And yes, that's correct. That's how I've described it. You've got a Tokyo Drift around the board. Yep. Yep, absolutely. All right, cool. Anything else you want to say on Battle for the Pass? Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I like it. Like, it's one of the scenarios I like the most. It's just like, and for those that don't understand why I say it's not on events, it's because the logistics. Oftentimes, these boards are all like, you'll have like at large events, at least in the U.S., you'll have like 5-10 tables all lined up next to each other.
Right. They will literally abut each other with
They will
0
abut-
inches in between.
Yeah, so you can't go to the other side of the table easily, right? And the problem is that like when you do that, and if you do a scenario like this, you actually can't deploy in half your zone because you can't reach it.
Right.
So when I was talking about this idea of like this doesn't show up, it's because it's so inconvenient to actually play.
Well, and keep in mind, the tables aren't just abutting each other; they're all in a long row. So, like,
Right.
if you want to access, let's say you're standing on this side of the physical table, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you need to access something over here. You have to walk down the whole row, like squeezing by everybody, because those tables are often so close. Like the pre-COVID world was insane. You're like squeezing through people, like excuse me, like you're getting out of a movie theater row. You got to walk all the way down, over, and then come all the way back to access your stuff over on this other side. Or more likely, I'll tell you what I do, and most times I just go to my opponent and go, "Can you move those guys 6 inches, like right about there?" Yeah, perfect, thanks. Like,
Yep.
It's just not worth it.
Yeah, and so like it's just a very uncomfortable scenario to play at large events.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I love it. Like anytime I can do a scenario like this, I love playing this scenario.
Yeah, we've played this a bunch on my table, like at my house, because obviously there it's if it's a single table in your basement, it's fine. Who cares? So.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Better part of Valour. Better part of Valour. I'm covering up the R with my face. There we go.
We're going alphabetical, aren't we?
We are. Yeah. I told you that. I said that. I said we're going alphabetical. How would you have organized it?
The same order that they're in the GHB.
Well, they're stupid for not being alphabetical in the GHB. They should be alphabetical. Trust me, this is better. You'll thank me.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
All right. So, key parts of Better Part of Valor. 9-inch deployment. This is what 9-inch deployment scenario, meaning you're only starting 9 inches off the line.
18, yeah.
18 apart from
18
the enemy.
from the enemy. Yep.
Mm-hmm. You've got this has alternative objective holding now.
Yep.
So battle line units control by presence, not by number, right? You can only take it with a battle line unit, and they just take it by being first one on the block, right?
Yep.
And the only way you then take it from them is by
killing the battle line.
Yeah, killing the battle line unit that has it. And at the you could choose to burn your objectives, right? And scoring is based on the duration of control when the objective is burnt. So if you hold it 1 round, you get 1, 2 rounds, you get 2, 3 rounds, you get 4, 4 rounds, you get 8. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Notably, you cannot control the objective by moving onto it. And the objectives themselves are farther apart than the armies are.
Yes.
Right. The objectives themselves are sitting on the 12-inch line. So your units are actually starting in front of your objectives.
Yes.
Right.
By 3 inches.
Mm-hmm. By 3 inches. So, and keep in mind, because this is an alternative control scenario, the radius on the objective is only 3 inches.
Right.
It's not a 6-inch radius. Okay.
Yep.
So you actually are like completely, not that it matters too much, but you can completely hedge people out of your objective, even with a non-battle line unit, right? Like even if you aren't technically taking it, you can prevent them from getting on it simply by...
If you can keep them outside the 3 inches.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. This one is, to me, I don't know how often do you think you see this one at tournaments?
Often enough.
Yeah, I would call this like 50-50 shot. It could be in a tournament pack, right? Some people like it, some people
Yep.
don't. It doesn't have a lot of randomness. It is quite
No.
strategic. I
Yep.
know tournaments tend
And
to really not like the ones that have a heavy random factor in them.
it incentivizes certain army constructions as well. And so certain armies that are going to be light on battle line, for example, are going to struggle with something like this. And so it's
100%.
actually it is a good type of scenario to mix into your pack to make sure armies are well rounded.
Yep. Yeah, like light battle line armies, because you could see armies where they're building it out, where they're just taking a couple units of battle line to pay it off, and then the rest is all, the meat of the meat, right?
Like Hedonites of Slanesh.
Sure, great example. Yeah, old school Slanesh, right? Where you're packing it in with all heroes, then you got 3 units of
10
Hellstriders.
Well, that was before the change.
That was before next week, Tom. Next week, the 5th nerf for Slanesh. Yes,
is the wound too fresh?
No, I mean it is truly we're to that scenario where it's like stop, he's already dead. Okay,
yeah.
But at any rate, yes. The funny part about this one is something like again, they're just fresh in my mind, obviously because I've been playing nothing but the army recently. But something like the Sons of Behemoth, this can be a really tough objective, a really tough mission. Right. Because you often have your battle line, your ability of your troops to count as like 1,000,000 billion people doesn't matter. Right? Your leaders counting as 60 million people is irrelevant. Your baseline dudes, if you've got even if you're running 3 singles and a 3-pack, it's like, okay, what's one giant gonna do to go take this from anybody, right? Because you have to kill the thing on the unit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So armies that can put out really hard hitting battle line, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think tend to excel here. So to me, this is like one of my favorite scenarios to play with my Iron Jaws. I'm in it to win it with this. An 18-inch separation between me and my enemy, right?
Yep.
Great. That means my whole army's into you turn 1 if that's what I want, right?
Right. Fire Slayers are like, oh, hello.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Like even for Fire Slayers, this is such a good deal. Abundance of good battle line, hard hitting damage, easiness to control the space. Like if you can get across and have battle line that hits hard, right?
Yep.
This can be a great scenario for you. I think this is a great one for Skaven actually as well, right? Who tends to have like Skaven in their traditional build will often tend to have massive battle line units. And keep in mind you've got things like Storm Vermin counting as battle line, right? Which can certainly chop up most enemy battle line. I mean, a pumped Storm Vermin unit hits for like 40 plus damage against a 4+ save unit. That's pretty good. That'll clear most stuff out, right?
Yep. A nice Daughters of Cain witches unit.
Right, because they're in turn 1. Like 6-inch move, 6-inch run, 6-inch charge in like Flynn. Right?
Right.
And I have your objective. It's not even hard.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Here comes 30 buffed up Sisters of Slaughter, turn 1. Say goodnight, Gracie. Right? Like, of course I'm going to put them into you. And I'll just burn your objective right away, because who cares? Right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're going to burn and then just drift to the next one.
Right, yeah. The goal is you just run them up and then run down the line, right? You just...
Right.
Yeah. And you're putting so much pressure on them that they can't... To me, the tack I've always taken with this one, if your army can manage it...
Is just overwhelm them.
Overwhelm a single point, right? So it's the World War I Stormtrooper tactic. Like, you don't attack the whole line, right?
Right.
You attack one point with as much power as you can muster as a spear tip, right? Generally, I prefer the end, but I'll go for the middle if it's weak, right? But it's usually not.
Yep.
And then that's when you just handbrake turn right, and now you're coming for the center of their army, right?
But it is a 24-inch run.
Sure. Sure, it's a distance. Like you're not wrong. There is a significant distance between here and here, but that
You're
doesn't
going to
mean
get 2 points. Like you're going to get a shot. Let me say it this way: you're going to get a shot at 2 of their points. Pick
yes.
wisely.
Sure, absolutely. Now, what I'll say is, yes, that's true, but it's not like you have to actually be 24 inches away. Like your battle line unit can be up here taking in this cloud around the objective, right? So you can like take it, be out 6 inches, burn this thing, and then start heading for the next glory.
It's 3 though,
It's
right?
3, but my point is your cloud of dudes could
Yeah.
be extended farther than that, right? You're just like, blah, it's this Galactus cloud moving forward, right? This Ultimate Universe Galactus,
Indeed.
right? So yeah, I mean, to me, the strength of this is look at your army. Do you have an army that is most like, again, Iron Jaws, where everything you take is battle line? They're just all battle line. The whole army's battle line. Cool. Everything that's not the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher or War Channers, right? Do you have battle line that can punch above their weight? And can you be relatively fast? If the answer to those 3 questions are yes, this is a great scenario from you, right?
Yep.
For you.
Yep.
If you rely on non-battle line units to be doing most of the work in your army, this is a much, much, much harder scenario. You gave the example of Slaanesh. Very hard scenario for Slaanesh. Because, one, they have no anvil, so they can't stop the enemy from taking it. And when they go over and kill them, it's very hard for them to have anything to actually then hold the point. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Next up. Focal points. I think focal points is one of the most popular scenarios you'll see in a tournament pack. Does that sound like a fair statement to you?
Yeah.
I see this all the time, like in tournament packs. Because it's amazing. Like, this is such a fun scenario. So again, 9-inch deployment. So again, we're only starting 18 inches away from the enemy. Again, you're starting in front of your objectives. Yep. Scoring is based on the objectives you control. If you control basically opposing objectives, like 1 in the enemy zone and 1 in your zone, so 1 and 3 or 2 and 4, that's worth a total of 3 victory points. If you control the central objective, it's worth 2. If any objective you control alone without its pair is worth 1. And then this has the interesting bonus of monsters or behemoths being worth 1 additional victory point.
If they're within 6 inches, they don't have to be the capping unit.
Correct. They just have to be within 6 inches. Yep.
So for example, if you positioned one of those units in between like the center point and one of the flanks, both of those are going to net an additional point.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Like,
yep.
Not that. Yeah. Like. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely doable. You can
Yes.
get one guy, depending on the monster we're talking about. If you've got a pie plate monster, yeah. If you've got a pie plate monster, Reed, Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, Alariel, anybody on the 160, where you're 6.2 inches, right?
Yeah.
You can actually sit in such a place where you have, where you're touching the bubble of all 3 of any triangle of objectives.
Right. Yep.
Right. So you can be, that one monster can be adding, if you, like, let's say you've went for, by the way, this is another Tokyo Drift scenario. Just point that out.
Yep.
Because you absolutely want to just hard echelon to one side. Fairly obvious. Don't go straight through the middle. In fact, I usually end up trying to take this one before I try to take the central one. Because I try to get them to go after the central. And then I try to pincer maneuver in on them. It's usually my play on this.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got any triangle and then you just float a monster here in the center, like, boom, now you're getting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? It's crazy.
3, like, maybe. Is you're getting, it's not 3, like 1 and 3 isn't 3 VP for each. It's 3
it's
for
3 total.
both.
Yeah, it's 3 total. Plus
Which
2
goes
in
to
Enter Center here is
4.
5. I believe, I need to go reread it, but I believe you get the monster bonus for both when you control both things.
Right. So yes. So you would go from, you get 7, right?
well, it's 3, 4, 5, 6 for having him near the central, the monster near the central. 7 for having. I think what I'm saying is I think the monster is applying to both of those and counting twice. But I need to go read it again. I don't remember exactly.
Right.
But yes, the point is
Regardless,
it's very valuable.
it's really good.
Yes. I cannot overstate how much that behemoth monster bonus changes this scenario scoring. If you have the ability to eliminate their monsters, or if they don't have monsters, it is such a handicap on this scenario.
Yep.
Because it is
like
crazy how fast the points build up.
And this is a great one to have to, like, for example, for KO to be in. Because you can just pop. Yeah, you just pop that ironclad.
Mm-hmm.
And like it can reach out and touch people.
Yeah, totally agreed. It can float in the right place, be giving bonuses to whatever objectives it needs to be giving bonuses to, and still be highly contributory towards your overall victory, right? Because it's just going weapons free on something within range. Yeah.
Yep.
This is a great BCR scenario. BCR love this scenario. Beast Claw Raiders, by the way, just so I'm not, acronyming everything. Because all of their things they're taking with tend to be big monster trucks, right? So they just score everything at a higher rate. Everything.
Right.
They start with their base objectives. It's like when you're playing BCR, everything is just worth more, right? Your single objectives are worth 2. Center objective is worth 3. It's just like everything goes up 1.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep.
You're playing at such a negative against them. One of the things I'll say is that this is actually a weak scenario for somebody like Eels or IDK traditionally. That might change now that turtles aren't terrible, but that was an army sort of somewhat classically without monsters.
Yep.
Right. So if you could kind of spread out on them, you could run up the score before the eels, before the turn 3 eel explosion.
Yep.
So it's probably one of the more challenging ones with them. Yeah, anybody who's relying on, I think, you look at armies that are mainly big masses of infantry, and I think this version of focal points is tougher for them. So Doc, depending on the build, because they might only have 1 or maybe 2 things that could count as bonus. I shouldn't just say Hearthguard, Fire Slayers, right? Depending on whether or not you've got a Magmadroth, which isn't always the case. Sometimes you might have 1, right? Those kinds of armies. I think this is a great Sons of Behemoth. This is your dream objective. This is your dream scenario. This is where you dominate, right?
Yep.
Because you can stomp out, collect anything you want, basically, even if they're already on it, right?
Yep.
This is your classic, like, Taker Tribe wins it by just existing. And sure, your whole army's dead by turn 3 and it's irrelevant. You've run the score up over 30 points and there's just no physical way they can catch you.
Yep.
Right. So, yeah. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about focal points? Great scenario, right? I mean, I think it's
one of my favorites to play. Yeah, it's one of my favorites to play.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. Forcing the Hand. Obviously, this is a new scenario. This has a complicated setup. It's using the little stair-step setup thing. I hate its setup. It is a standard 12-inch. If I don't have it listed, it's a standard 12-inch setup. Have you played this at all yet, Tom? Have you got to play Forcing the Hand yet?
I don't remember.
Yeah, that's fine. I've got to play this one a couple times. I think I played it maybe 3 or 4 times since it came out in GHB. And I love the... I actually really like the trick of this scenario. This setup drives me bonkers because mapping it out beforehand is really annoying. Because you have to, like, mark the line in between all the objectives. And then you've got to, like, put down all the 12-inch sticks at, like... Because it actually ends up going like this. Right? Because you mark up your 12, and then your 12 comes down over top of it. And so it creates, like, this little zone in here where you can actually deploy. Now it's kind of like straightforward. It's not the most complicated math. Like it's this line is where you deploy.
Yeah.
It just sits underneath it. But it's actually just really annoying to like set down all these dice in this weird pattern.
Yeah.
So at any rate, not the biggest deal. I hate wacky setups.
It's just annoying.
Yeah, sure. So the concept with this is during your enemy's turn, you choose a primary objective from your own objectives, right? And if they take that, it's worth 3 to them.
Yes.
Okay. So you're choosing one of your objectives to be worth more to them.
Right.
Okay. Now, there's a couple interesting things about this scenario because of the weird way the table is set up, and then I think the strategies and tactics around that. So one thing that's interesting about this setup is that later turn ambushes are actually really interesting in how they can end up being played here. Because these two objectives, like this objective and this objective, tend to be kind of out in Nowheresville, given where most of the armies end up being, which there sort of ends up being this cluster around this box in the middle, is what usually happens, right? With usually this one and this one, just this is from my experience of playing it, being more lightly defended and a lot of openish space back here. Okay, on both items. So if you have those kinds of like teleporting tricks or ambush tricks or whatever, you can oftentimes threaten their sort of lighter guarded scenario. And that if you're threatening this, what's interesting is then you're going to make them pick one of the two that are in the kill box as the primary.
Yep.
Okay. Now, here's what I'll say. As somebody playing this, as the person making the decision, I love that they called it forcing the hand because that is really accurate. I have intentionally, several times, named an objective that I knew my opponent could take.
Yep, because what you're trying to do is incentivize them to pursue that in order to get them to move where you want them to.
Correct. Yep, exactly. Like, I'm willing to give you 3 VP for this turn because I know then I'm going to be able to counter in such a way that is hugely beneficial to me. Right?
Yep.
So I really like the sort of the nature of this because you can just like if you don't have any good plan, you can just kind of call it whichever one you have the most bunkered, right? You just if it's okay, so sure, it's this one's the one I've got the most bunkered. Half my freaking army's around it. You're never getting it. That's my primary. Great.
Yep.
Okay. Like, and then the enemy player just goes, okay, and doesn't try for that one, and, irrelevant, right?
Right.
But sometimes you can get people to make that decision because it's hard to pass up 3 VP, right? So it is interesting, the little mind games you get to play with this one. I like that.
Yeah, it's interesting because what you end up being able to do is if you evenly guard your objectives, it forces them to go, well, if it's going to be equally difficult, I'm just going to go for the one that's worth more.
Yep. There's a lot of like incentives and counter incentives in this one, which I like. For such a simple little mechanic, it's actually really versatile in what it's doing during the game. All right. Anything else? Any other thoughts about this one, Tom?
No, it's very strategic.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of good decisions. So basically, once you get past the setup of this scenario, it's golden. It's a great scenario.
Yep.
So that's fine. One of my true all-time favorites. Knife to the heart. One step away from you. So this is what we call the all or nothing scenario. There's no VPs. You simply win the major, by controlling both objectives from turn 3 on. Right?
Yep. Or you minor.
Through
What's
the
interesting
standard
about this?
secondaries.
No. Well, like, yes, through secondaries. So what's interesting about this, though, is that it used to be based on how many kill points you had, how many units you'd killed. And with this new GHB, that changed. It's now based on auxiliary or secondary objectives, which is really interesting. It really makes, like your secondaries way more important as to what you choose when you go into this.
Why I love this scenario, like, is that there's such an interesting push and pull here between like castle armies and ambush teleport effects, right?
Yep.
And a lot of scenarios ask a question. This one like shouts the question, right?
Yeah.
The question is, can you get their objective? Can you kill their army, right?
Yep.
While
And get
still
across the table.
protecting your own.
And get across the table. Yeah, it's fascinating. So this is in Game 4 at A-Con, not this year, it was canceled, but the prior year, I played Bill Souza with this scenario on Table 1.
Yep.
And it was such a dick kicker match, because you really have to have mobility and killing power. And if you don't have both of those things, you're dead in the water. Like, there are a lot of people that roll up to this scenario and go, well, I can't get the major here because they don't have one of those tools.
Yep.
And so it's just a really interesting, like, because of the way the incentive structure is, some people will have to roll up on this scenario and just go, okay, I'm going to play defensive. I'm playing for the minor. And like that, just like a lot of people when faced with this, look at that and go, yep. And by the way, when you're looking at this in a pack, this needs to be like either number 1 or number 4. I say 1 because it separates the herd real quick.
Quickly. Yeah, this is the most likely scenario to end in a minor victory, right? It still holds that title.
Yes. And so you really have to, like, again, and it's a great for us, like a turn 4,
round 4.
Like a round 4, because it really sorts the top tables. When you're really wanting to have, like the event come to a close, this is a great scenario to do that.
Yep, agreed. I also like this one because, and for the reason actually that I was just going to mention, but Rob also just said in the comments, is because you can't quote unquote get ahead on victory points, right? You're always kind of in this until the end. Yep. This was classically a great dock scenario because your harpies could drop in turn 5. That's gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So, but to me, I'll say I always play this for the major.
Sure, of course.
You know, like, you can be, if you're a sort of conservative general, there's no reason you can't play straight to the secondaries and just go for the minor, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably the safer way to go. But I say, no way, Jose. Like, we're all in. Like, I'm gonna get your objective from you. I will point out that, again, just because it's close to my mind, like, this is another one of those scenarios that that can potentially be really good for Suns. Okay, for the Giants.
Yes, sure.
Because if you can actually, if your army can be alive on turn 3, so what you want to have happen is you get the start of 3, right?
Yeah.
So they've only had 2 rounds to whittle you down. You could just have so many objective counting things touching within their radius that literally even if their army is there,
everybody forward. It doesn't matter.
Correct.
You just try to get within the claiming bubble.
Right.
If you can get there, your raw meat will potentially push them off.
Correct. Like, you could have 105 bodies on their on their objective by putting like a couple toes across the line.
Yep.
Like their whole army could be sitting there and not enough, right? You still just take it right out from underneath them. So, yes, traditionally, by the way, BCR have the same trick. Often, they're they can pull the survival trick. And so they oftentimes will have, like, just their big monster trucks be able to push in and just take it.
Yep.
Yep. All right. Cool. Yeah, knife is a lot of fun. I think this also shows up in tournaments quite often. I agree with you. It is a score splitter. Right, it's a separate the major winners from the minor winners. It is a
great sorting scenario.
Yes, it is. Yes, absolutely. It's gonna say who's going to Gryffindor and who's going to Hufflepuff for sure.
That's exactly right.
I am wearing a Slytherin T-shirt right now. So
well, and I was gonna say, and really like, and then who's going to table 1 with Slytherin?
That's right. Yes, exactly. The best house. Okay, so right on. Places of arcane power. All right, so love this scenario. Gonna be in most every tournament pack because it is a hero-focused scenario. 9-inch deployment, but it is an unusual 9-inch deployment because it uses these boxes now. It uses the corner boxes. So what ends up happening is you get this little windshield wiper of non-deployment space, right?
Yeah.
In your zone. So you kind of have this... Like, this square gets a bite taken out of it that you can't deploy in, and you have the rest of it. It has an alternative objective capture. Only heroes can capture by moving on. No retreating. You do have to move onto it. You can't set up on it. And you lose control if you leave the objective in any way, or if you die. If you die to another hero, another leader, I should say, a hero, they take it from you. Scoring is based on the time that the hero sits on the objective, with the victory points being equal to the number of turns the objective is controlled by that hero.
Mm-hmm.
Love this scenario. Love it. What's your feelings on this one?
You're going to see it a lot. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be, you just got to plan for it. This is one of them in list composition that I'm looking at going, okay, even if this doesn't show up, I'm going to build every list to actually be able to compete on this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because, again, it's going to be one of those sorting ones.
Yeah. Right? You just have to have a plan.
Yeah. That you will often see included because it makes a certain type of army valid, right? So you have to make sure you have heroes that can go compete on this. You can't, a single hero army is just a non-starter. A 2-hero army is very tough, right? Because if those guys get picked off, you're just dead. That's it. You lose. You're done. You cannot score anymore.
Yep.
Right. I played this just this weekend, this last weekend with my sons, okay, against a Tzeentch change host.
Right.
And my strategy was very simple. It was called charge their army at the top of 1 with my entire army sans one of the megas, okay, who went and stood over on this point in the top right, okay? He went and stood here. Yep. Their army was back here, not claiming anything, right? Now, keep in mind, they got to teleport. Right? And I know that. But I just brought my entire army into them and just killed them in their zone.
Yep.
And then
so that they can't go anywhere.
So they couldn't go anywhere. He can move 1 unit out. That's fine. If he wants to go move 1 leader out, then at best he's matching me.
Right.
Right? Because I'm keeping him from getting at the center one.
Yep.
And the Tzeentch player double turned me from 1 into 2, killed every baby giant that I had.
Oof.
Okay.
Yeah.
6 baby giants incinerated by flamers. Oof. And then on my bottom of 2, my mega marched up, charged around, and killed all 3 of his heroes that were still in range. Like, he had them in a pack because he was sort of, trying to cast and keep all his bonuses.
Yeah, I mean, it was the normal Tzeentch pack. Yep.
Correct. And I just went whack, 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 and killed all 3 of his heroes. And I was like, okay, I win the game.
Oof.
All your heroes are dead. Because my dude was just over there getting points. And he had no way to get points anymore. Didn't matter what he had left.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, I think this is interesting because the traditional way that people think about this, and I think the normal sort of strategy is you play for two of these, not three of them, right?
Right.
That's sort
Yeah,
of that's the smoothest brain read on this
yeah.
scenario,
You
right?
pick two,
Uh-huh.
and then especially if you have teleporting, you pick two, and then you snake the third if it looks like you're going to be overrun on one of yours.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Now, let me tell you how I've classically played this scenario. Okay. Other
Yep.
than what I just said, which was a
Sure.
very unusual situation, right?
Sure.
I don't know that that's how I do it in a tournament. I probably would. I'd probably risk it for the biscuit there too. Here's my traditional way that I've played this scenario.
Hmm.
Traditionally, I go hard at one of the outer objectives.
Right. To
Okay.
de-incentivize them from committing to it.
Correct. Like when I say hard, I mean like I will basically take my whole army and go, we're going over here now.
Yep. Yep. Because then what you can do is push towards the middle with your whole army.
Correct. Because then what I'm wanting to get them to do, like let's say I push hard up here to the top one. And sort of like my
Yep.
whole army kind of moves up here. Maybe I put a
Yep.
chaff unit or two out here to kind of just, be in the way and make them have to fight to get
Yep.
to things and, just generally be entangled with nonsense. Right?
Yep.
But what I'm trying to get them to do is take their army and split its power onto the other two. So they're going to run up the
Right.
score ahead of me. Like I know that's going to be
Yep.
the case.
Yep.
But then I'm
Yep.
going to take my whole army and go fight
And
half
take
their army.
right half their army. Yep.
And then I'm just going to bulwark that line that I just made, this new trench
And
that
if
I've
they
dug
can't
across the middle.
and if they can't get to your back point, it's over.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And so I actually think there's an advantage to giving ground on this one first.
Yeah.
And then like retaking and rebuilding, where you're basically you need to be choosing your fights, and if you try to be the one who picks the two, you're not going to choose your fights. Your enemy's going to choose their fights.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah, like you need to be assured in your killing power with this though.
Oh yeah.
Because
Sure.
you have to purge them. Like from that middle with that push.
So KY Slippy says, are all of the scenarios designed and balanced for 2K point armies? I think that's probably the ideal that they're built for.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've certainly played most of these scenarios with other size armies, and it's been fine. I've played most of these with, 1K armies or 1,500 point armies or effectively 3,000 point team armies, and they still pretty much work.
Yep.
I've never really seen any great like change. So it might be a little tough to deploy 3,000 points in the space. I mean, something like this one. If you're playing a big team game like we often do with 1,500 points per player, so 3,000 points aside, it's a big game. So,
Oof, yeah.
all right. Anything else on places of arcane power?
Nope.
All right. Scorched Earth. 9-inch deployment. So you're behind your objectives. That's the key.
Yep.
Your objectives are out in front of you.
Yep.
Highest number of objectives, right? At 8. 8 objectives.
It's so many.
It's so many.
So many.
Scoring is based on control of objectives and or burning enemy objectives. So you get 1 VP for each objective you control.
Yep.
D plus D, you get D3 victory points. I should say plus, it's just D3 victory points if you burn an objective, if you burn an enemy objective. And then here's the two really fascinating things about this one that got added. Okay, I've only played this scenario once since it relaunched, and I will say, holy Moses, is this one feel different, Tom? I don't know if you've gotten a chance to get at this one, but just my one game of this I've gotten in. Every week when we play, we literally shuffle all the scenarios and then randomly draw one, so it's just whatever comes up. And I just have only gotten Scorched Earth once, but Scorched Earth, you cannot burn an enemy objective if one of their leaders is within 6 inches of the objective.
Yep.
And you get a bonus victory point if you burn one of the enemy objectives if one of your leaders is within 6 inches.
Right.
Holy Moses. does that change the math for some armies?
Yep.
So, your armies that are poised to do well in this scenario need to have sort of your top of the mountain armies are armies that have heroes that can be mobile and or do work, right?
Yep. Yep.
And armies that can project power to remove leaders, like to
Yep.
pick off, small heroes
Yep.
that might be trying to stand around and prevent you from burning,
Yep.
right? So I will say that there actually aren't a huge number of armies that combine those two things. Okay?
No, that's true. That's true.
Because most of the time, if you talk about, like, well, who has super killy kind of leader models?
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right, well, Slanesh has super killy leader models, certainly.
Yep.
FEC has super killy leader models. Right?
Mm-hmm.
One could argue that Seraphon has a super killy leader model in the form of Krog, but he's not marching over with the army, probably, right?
Right. Right.
So he doesn't count. I honestly think this is an interesting one for... I'd be interested to get your KO take on this. And what I mean by that is they've got the power projection to remove the enemy leaders, right?
The mobility is the issue. Like getting their leaders in and out, like in a round, because while they're in ships, they don't count.
Sure.
As soon as they jump out of a ship, they're not mobile.
Yeah, what I'm thinking of is the Balloon Boy leader, right?
You're gonna have, on average, you'll have one.
Sure. But I'm saying, like, but he's also, like, he does decent enough damage. Again, he's not a kill machine. I'm not comparing him to, like, a...
He's fine.
He's fine, yes. He is not a wet blanket, as most leaders are, right? In most armies. Like, the vast majority of heroes punch way below their weight, right?
Right. Right.
Point for point. He doesn't, right? To me, there's just not a huge number of armies that both combine the sort of ranged power projection that you need to, like, remove people and the aggressive leaders that can go over there and be, like, party to taking and burning objectives.
So one of the interesting things about the scenario for KO that is really shady, but I think it works rules as written, is the clause of, like, they can't be within 6 inches. If, like, you can't burn if there's a hero within 6 inches or a leader.
Sure.
That's not claiming.
No, you can claim it. You just can't burn it.
No, you're missing.
Okay.
That's not considered claiming. So, the clause for KO about heroes being in ships doesn't apply.
Oh, yeah. You're saying you can still, like, if your leader's floating in, you're saying garrisoning a boat.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, he still counts for the burn proof.
Right, and the +1 burn.
Yes.
+1 VP burn. Because he's within 6 inches.
Right, because he's not actually the one claiming the objective. That's all you're barred from when you're in a boat.
Right. And so, like, one of the interesting things about how this has been written is actually, like, the floaty mobile hero isn't as big of a deal because your foot heroes can be in boats and still serve this function.
Which is why I'm saying I think KO, this is a strong scenario for them.
Yeah, I could see that. There has to be, like, tons of hit and run.
Sure. I mean, you're risking your own objectives because you don't have a huge number of anvils to also keep your stuff protected.
You're just not holding your stuff.
Right.
Like, you may have a couple tenors of Arco sitting in lawn chairs on those objectives, but in general, like, your goal is to blitz and burn.
Yep. You're going Sky Pirates.
Yeah, you're going to Sky Pirate, and you're going to burn everything you touch.
Yeah. I think the other one that can actually play this real aggressively is BCR.
Yeah, no, I would
Okay.
agree with that.
Because there actually is there's a few decent ways to actually bring, especially like little utility heroes down at range,
Yep.
especially if you're floating around like a Thunder Tusk or you've got a fair number of Blood Vultures in your army or something. Like people underestimate what a couple Blood Vultures can do, but it can do some work, right?
No, it's true. It's true.
And obviously, if they're charging in and taking these points, like they're gonna show up, take the thing, count as 10, kill what's on it. You know, when Mr. Murderhorn comes around and shows up and kills everything on it, right? Assuming you've managed to wound down the hero that's stopping it, maybe he wasn't the thing you got to fight directly. If you vultured him down or whatever, you know, instantly you're getting the full burn, right? Because he is your leader dudes are probably who's leading the charge here, right?
Right. Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting one there. Yeah. Scorched is tough. Here's what I'll say. I don't think you see this very often in tournaments.
I would agree with that.
Do you want
I don't know if I agree with that, actually.
I think, like, wouldn't you agree that it's in the minority of tournament packs? I.e., there are more tournament packs without it. I mean,
it used to be in more, is what I would say.
Sure.
When it was only 6 and not 8.
Right. Yeah, I think the 8 is so many. Like, I like it because it's so crazy. Because it's 8 objectives. Right. That actually makes it really hard. Right? It means that, like, something's getting burned on both people's sides. And I think one of the things that turns a lot of TOs against it is the D3 burn.
Yeah.
So, for example, I did see it in a tournament pack recently, and there was like one house rule in the tournament pack, and the tournament pack was that the house rule was Scorched Earth burns are 2 VPs. That was the only
I don't
change.
hate that.
Okay.
Yep.
So that way you weren't losing it on like, oh, I burnt 2 of yours and accidentally rolled a 1. You burnt 1 of mine and rolled a 3. You win, I guess.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Which is a horrible feeling.
Sure. So I don't hate that change.
Right.
My guess is if 2021 you kept this scenario mostly the same, but you switched the D3 to 2, it would actually increase. Like it'd show up in 10 or 20% more tournament packs.
I could see that. Yep.
I'll also say it's just kind of annoying because I only have 6 of my fancy metal objective markers. All of the objective markers you buy are always in 6 packs. They don't make 8 packs of objective markers, so I've got to use 2 like ghetto objective markers, which I do not appreciate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Shifting objectives. Okay, shifting objectives. Very constrained deployment area because you lose 24 inches of total lengthwise space to deploy in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, your standard 24 inches apart.
Mm-hmm.
Scoring is based on a traditional objective control, but each round a random objective is primary. The primary objective is worth 2 VP. Both of the secondary objectives are worth 1 VP. And this one also has a bonus where if a battle line unit is within 6 inches is plus 1 VP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And here is my argument, Tom. This bonus that they added in 2020 completely changes the tactics of this scenario.
Yep. Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Because if you've got solid anvil battle line, like battle line that can win in the push, Mortec,
like
Hearthguard, right?
Yep.
Then your incentive is to basically push to a side and like ignore completely the idea of where it's shifting. Who cares? Who cares? It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Because if you're holding 1 to 2 with battle line in range the entire game, right? So if that's what you're doing.
Yep.
And they're not, right?
Yep.
You win. It's that easy. Like, it doesn't matter. They could sit on the primary the entire time, right? Like, imagine you controlled objective 1 and 2, and those are both secondaries. And objective 3 is the primary. And you just keep rolling 3, right?
Yep.
Just over and over and over and over again. It's just 3, 3, 3, 3. So they're literally just holding the primary forever, right? You give it to them for the whole game and say, I don't care. It doesn't matter. They're scoring, even if they were scoring that with a battle line unit, you're beating them. Right? Because you're scoring 4 to their 3.
Right.
Like, that's just the straight math of the thing.
Right.
Because the battle line turns your secondaries into the primary scoring value, right? If you can destroy their best battle line option to hold, and yours is a super anvil. So again, like, to me, Fire Slayers, OBR, people with like real hardcore anvil battle line units, this is a scenario that's just asking for them to dominate. Right? You just push in the middle, hold, sit, win. Right?
Yep. It's true.
Yeah, I'm trying to, like, this is again, just thinking about armies that are interesting on this one. I think this is a strong one for Seraphon. By the way, not that most aren't. Seraphon can oftentimes can sort of can threaten these objectives in lots of different ways with lots of different bodies. And by the by, when you're pushing into the middle to try to take it from all their battle line, which is just swarms of very hard to kill battle line, either through like extremely tough Saurus, rarely, or most of the time just huge numbers of skinks that are going to have ridiculous bonuses and skitter away from you and kill you, right?
Yep.
By pushing into the middle, you're just dying. You're just dying to all their shots and their magic and everything else, right?
Yep. No, I agree.
Tzeentch is another one where this is sort of an interesting play, right? As you could come into their fire zone real easy. Meanwhile, they're just gumming up the whole board with pink pieces of bubble gum, with pink ores, right? Just exploding and then folding reality and popping them back in and just being like, "Yep, deal with that more," right? There's 30 more battle line wounds. Deal with that. It's like popcorn out in the middle.
Oof. Yep.
All right. Cool. Anything else on shifting? I don't think this shows up in a lot of tourneys, so it's fine.
No, I would agree with that.
Star Strike. Ugh.
This one is in so many, like so many.
But I do not like Star Strike at all.
It just feels like this is a scenario that you have to get through all 5 turns. And if you don't get through all 5 turns, then just the dice will determine who wins the game.
Yeah. Yes. 100%. Right?
Yep. And I have lost this game because of dice.
I like randomness in the game. I really do. I like that things aren't that isn't chess. That things aren't like just sort of A, B, C, D, yada yada. Like, I'm good with that. But this one, you can just play like the tightest game, and it can just be like, well, the second. So just let's go through the basics. There's no objectives on the board at the start. It's okay.
Right.
The first objective doesn't drop until the start of battle round 2, and it drops on the center line. In either this point, or this point. Right? And then at the second and third objective, both drop at the start of battle round 3. And the VPs you get for holding any objective is equal to the current battle round.
Yeah.
So for the first basically 2 rounds of this game, this scenario is there's no objective. Either play as, if you've got an alpha army, you go all in without risk, right? Of not being near where the objective needs to be. If you've got a castle army, you stay castled, right? Yep. If you've got a bunch of stuff in ambush, you just keep it back in ambush. Like, there's very little first mover advantage to this one, right?
Yes, although like in the games that I've played on a number of instances, because I've often played like teleporting anvils, oftentimes I've like just claimed very large portions of the board with anvils, and zoned out like 2/3 of the drop areas.
Sure. And then it'll still drop in the other one.
Well, I mean, one time it did that, but
Yeah, of
sometimes it drops on my line, and at
course.
that point it's just consolidate. And so, yeah, I don't know. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I think this is one of my least favorite scenarios because you can play so well and still just have the dice be like, nah. Or you can have a very, but that's whatever, whatever. You can actually be having a very evenly matched game, and just the
right.
dice are like, well, I guess person A wins this one,
Sure, sure.
right? Just
It,
because of,
it reminds me of the relocation orb, where it's just like I'm gonna bounce, like because of dice, because of reasons. I'm gonna be over here now.
at least with
Like, oh,
relocation orb, especially in its most recent version. I mean, obviously it doesn't exist anymore.
sure, sure,
You
sure.
could know it was either going to go here or here, right? And that that
Right.
was a
I'm
relatively
talking about
constrained area.
priors where it was like bounce, bounce, bounce.
Yeah, yeah,
And
sure,
it jumps
sure.
across the table, and you're like, ah, just kidding. We're not playing the same game anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So, but yeah, like that doesn't exist now. Like they've changed those and they've updated that,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine. But it's the reality of where it is. So,
So to me, it's like I don't know. I think it still shows up in some tournament packs. I wish it wouldn't. I don't like it. It's just kind of a silly game. It's
I
too
mean,
much
there
of
for
it
a
is
couple
out
of
of your
years,
control.
it was showing up in everything.
Sure, sure, sure. I mean that like the randomness of Scorched Earth comparatively is so minimal, right?
Right.
Like that's
Yep.
just yes. Sometimes you get a bad roll on a burn. This is like, oh, two of the objectives dropped in between their entire army and you.
Right. Right.
So I guess they win then. Cool. Right? Like, okay.
Yep. Yep. Not
Uh,
ideal.
yeah, no, not at all. All right. The Blade's Edge. The Blade's Edge. Okay. I love Blade's Edge. This is another one I've got to play a couple times.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So first things to understand is the objectives are very close to each other. Super close. Okay.
Super close.
So close. There are 6 objectives to control at the start. There will be less as the game
Right.
goes on.
Yep.
Because the player going second in each battle round after the first chooses
Yep.
one objective and removes it. Control
Mm-hmm.
of any objective is worth 1 victory point. And
Yep.
what I have here is this is very easy because of the nature of where these are for
Yeah.
a single unit to control multiple objectives. Not a single model.
Mm-hmm.
A single model cannot contribute to more than one objective. So, sorry, Sons of Behemoth / BCR players. You can't just park your monster truck or your mega in the middle on the line and be like, both of these are mine. I am a big number of people on both of these. No. No. That's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got a unit of 30 dudes, right? You can be like, well, there's 15 on this side of the line, and there's 15 on this side of the line, and that's 15 and 15. That you can do. Right? Because their little 6-inch spheres literally touch.
Right.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I really like the consolation prize of the person going second getting to remove the objective. That's such a big
Sure.
deal in this.
Sure.
It's a huge deal. Because oftentimes, like, if you're getting spun into the double, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can still dramatically impact their scoring, right? By taking away a key objective that they were controlling. When, like, it's questionable that they'll be able to take one of yours, So at best, they kind of break even, whereas you might be able to come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I like this one a lot. What do you like? Anything else? What have I missed on this one, Tom? What else is your thought on this one?
Um, it is like you need to be thinking 3 steps ahead, and you need to have plans for whether you win or lose initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is one of those where you simply have to plan, and you have to have a game plan. And if you don't know, like you just can't wing it because you will just simply like your objectives will just literally disappear out from underneath you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is not a scenario for like. I hate to say it this way. This is not a beer and pretzel scenario.
No, it's very tactical. They did such a good job with the 2 new scenarios. You know,
Yep.
The other thing I'll say about this one is I know this looks like it has a horizontal deployment, but every game I've ever played of this ends up being feeling like it was a diagonal deployment 10 minutes into the game. Because it ends up like splitting like this almost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because somebody pushes in on an edge. Right.
Yep. Got to watch out for getting your edge pushed in.
Nobody likes a pushed in edge. All right. Cool. I mean, my feeling on this one has always been, or is always like tactically, and again, I haven't had a super amount of time to completely formulate my thoughts on this one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is another Tokyo Drift scenario in my mind, where there's such a huge advantage to moving horizontally, that like lengthwise down the board, because you end up being able to have your units threaten multiple objectives at once on that kind of a move, pretty easy. Right.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah. You're gonna lose your middle objective a lot there.
Oh, sure. Yes, absolutely.
Just split your army.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, yes, a smart opponent who's going second is going to strip your middle objective out, right? And be like, now for your control, you've got to split your army up, right? Which gives me a natural advantage. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right.
Mobility, really important.
Mobility, really important in that one, yeah. Total commitment.
How is it still in the book?
How is this? Is this still the worst scenario of the 18 match play scenarios?
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree wholeheartedly. Okay. All right.
Yep.
So there's no reserves, meaning if you have it now, I will say, as I've got down at the bottom, this is no longer a killer for Stormcast. You're free now, Stormcast. Congratulations. You're free from the weight, the lodestone around your neck that was total commitment is no more, right? If you're playing a Stormkeep.
Sorry, Night Haunt.
Mm-hmm. Night Haunt, Beasts of Chaos.
I mean, to be fair, let me just say this: Night Haunt actually aren't that influenced by it, because any Night Haunt player worth the salt is running his general as the
Dread Harrow.
As the Dread Harrow, and if that's the case, then he can teleport anything anywhere whenever he wants.
Well, good then. Then who we've punished the most is who needs to get punished. Those dirty Beasts of Chaos tricksters. They've had it too good for too long. That's what I say. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, like, IDK can't start with their eels off board, and they couldn't care less, because they're still going to go, like, a million inches. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, this used to completely remove Stormcast's allegiance ability, basically. Because their only allegiance abilities were, we can start in the heavens, and then a thing related to being started in the heavens. So,
Right.
But now they have Stormkeeps, and Stormkeeps you don't set up in the heavens, they have other tricks, and namely the stuff that's in Morathi we'll talk about next week, lets you not only set up on the table, but then redeploy potentially most of your army anywhere you want on board.
9 inches away from them.
Oh, perhaps only 9 inches. Could be maybe 3 inches if you're really clever. If you want to get saucy. Oh, we're talking about that next week, Tom. Don't act like we're not going to talk about the starting most of your army 3 inches away from their army before the game has begun.
Hey, I just want to, I'm just like every other guy. I just want to start with 40 sequiturs 3 inches off your line.
Sure, sure, sure.
Thanks, G-Dubs.
Why?
That was a
Why?
great little trick.
Why 40 sequiturs, Tom? Why not 60 liberators?
Because you can't get all of them within the 6-inch bubble to move 6 inches forward.
No, the bubble's not. We'll talk next week. You don't need that. The bubble is bigger than that. It's a 12-inch bubble. Anyways.
Yeah, 6 on each side, but yes.
No, look.
Because I want sequiturs. I don't want liberators.
I want liberators. I say bring back liberators. They're on the cover for a reason. Anyways, all right, let's talk about this scenario. It's crap, but anyways, it's got a 9-inch deployment on a vertical line, clearly, as you can see from the picture.
Yep.
Standard objective control. If you control objective in your territory, it's worth 1 VP. If you control an objective in enemy territory, it's worth 3 VPs.
Yep.
It's not very popular at tourneys. Thank God most TOs have finally turned away from it. It just punishes a whole swath of armies for absolutely no reason. The nature of it is pretty straightforward. Like, if you're actually playing this, it's funny too, because I actually quite like this objective setup.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I mean by that? Like, where the objectives are?
Where they go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting to have 4 very far apart objectives.
Yes.
Right?
Which just does nothing for the
slow armies without their ambush, their reserves.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Who now have to march forever to get to these things. Yeah, it's just the worst of all worlds.
I will say this, like, it still really hurts, like, Fire Slayers, for example.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Because 1, they're not doing their tunnel trick, and then 2, like, enjoy marching all the way across the board, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, this, if any scenario wants teleporters, like, if any scenario rewards teleportation, it's this scenario. Between the objectives being basically in separate counties from each other, right?
Yes.
And the fact that there's no reserving, so obviously no one's dropping behind you, right? That trick is off the table. But if you've got ready-made teleports, Change Host, Starborn Seraphon, whatever, right? It's so threatening in this scenario. Because they have to be pulling stuff away if they want to get over to your zones. And there's such a long march. Whereas you can just go, nah, boom, I throw all my troops over there. Right?
Yeah. It's just brutal. Like, man, KO boats do some work here.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Like, this is a great scenario for KO because in a lot of matchups, you can just leave your objectives knowing that your enemy physically can't get to them in time. Right?
Yep.
Like, it's going to take them so long to get over there.
You just leave, like, again, you leave some Arco hanging out on the point. And then, like, if they threaten anything, you just teleport back and obliterate whatever's threatening. And then you just, like, okay, I'm done with that. Now I'm going to go back and kill what you've left unguarded.
Right. Yeah, 100%. 100%. This is an A+ KO scenario, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I really, side comment on this one. This is a real strong one for, like, Lurid Haze Invader Slanesh.
Yeah.
Because you can pull units off and then redeploy them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not actually starting in reserve. You can just redeploy anywhere outside of 9, much like the new Stormkeep trick, right?
Yep.
And, that lets you put real threat oftentimes back in this corner is what's happening there. Or up here. Or down here, right? Sort of those are your 3 key spots you end up being able to take, right? Because they can't deploy in this area. They have a 9-inch line off here, so you can, like, be on the line here or whatever, threatening up here. Or you can kind of be in this area, threatening over here. Like, there's a lot of space. Yeah. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It's a bad scenario. I would love to see it redesigned. Like, I would love to see this format. Like, forget all these rules, okay? Take this map, which I think is really cool, and do something new with it. I think this map is cool, right? Like the objective placement and stuff like that. I think these rules are bad, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
So to me, that's a really easy fix. Okay. Total Conquest. Last one. Key points. 9-inch deployment. So again, we have the square with the byte taken out of it.
Yep.
Standard objective control. Each objective is worth 1 VP. You get an additional VP if you take an objective away from an enemy. And you get plus 1 VP for a friendly leader unit within 6 inches. All right. Total Conquest.
You're going to see this a lot.
Yeah, you're going to see this a lot. This one gets played a lot in a lot of tournament packs. Very popular. This is your sort of like Slaanesh, FEC, Archeon list, BCR, Sons of Behemoth dream scenario, right? Because all of those things have mega powerful leaders that can either clear an objective directly, like there's not much they fear, right? If they come after the objective, they will often just clear it.
As a side note, this is the scenario that I lost Marathi on.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Is I sent her off to a point, and I was like, she'll be fine, right? Like, she'll clear it. She'll be fine. She was not fine.
Narrator, she would not be fine. Okay. So, well, she'd be more fine now, because now she always lasts at least 4 turns, Tom.
Not Nurgle's nail.
Yes, even Nurgle's nailed, Tom. She can't be Nurgle's nailed anymore.
But that was the little one can't. The big one still can, right?
Nope. Ooh. Marathi cannot be insta-slain anymore, period. She always lasts 4 turns. Marathi cannot die before the bottom of 2, period. There is nothing in the game that will get rid of her before the bottom of 2. Yeah. Anyway, neither here nor there. We'll talk about it next week. Yeah, all of that big, powerful leader stuff, right?
Yeah.
Means that's such the best case scenario for these armies, because what they want you to do is they want you to go ahead and take one of those points. Go ahead.
Right.
Have one of those free open points. I want you to take it. Please. Because you're going to show up, claim it from neutrality, get 1 victory point, right? Or something. Maybe 2 if you took it with a leader, right? Yep. And then they're going to come screaming in, right?
Yep.
Blow you off the point, and bam, 3 victory point it, right? And they just want to do that all over and over and over again. Like, their best case scenario is just to literally start rotating around.
Right.
Right? Just chicken gaming all the way around, right? Just over and over. Just duck goosing around the objectives, blowing you off at every time, consistently outscoring you.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one because there is like the nature of how the objectives are set up being in such a perfect square, vis-a-vis how that then interacts with the deployment areas, right? Is really interesting in that you sort of have to make this decision early on of like which side of the L you care about.
Yep.
Right? Because you can't do, barring having a really crazy matchup, you're not going to be able to go like boom, boom, and like naturally just extend out to hold all 3. And I'll see a lot of people on their first turn do that. They'll like overextend where they'll send a big portion of their army over here, big portion of their army over here, and a little bit of their army here in the center. And I'm like, oh, well, you just lost this game. Right?
Unless you're playing Daughters of the Cain and just can pound for pound murder their entire army.
Well, or keep everybody in a 5-up rerolling bubble with ridiculous spread out witch elves or something nonsensical. Yes, sure.
Yeah, you know.
The majority of cases, you've abandoned the game if you literally try to spread like that, right?
Yep.
Because all you've done is given them an excuse to not only go smash against the weak side of your army, you're giving them the option to reclaim, right? I think what this says is don't take a point unless you're... Like, the only time you should be taking a point is if, 1, you can take it with a leader, and 2, if you're not going to give it back, right? Like, think about what the future moves are going to be. It could be worth it to take it with if you can, like, sneak in with some kind of chump hero, chump leader, and you know, like, he's following behind the hammer unit, because he just has to be near it, right? He doesn't have to actually be the one taking it. It's just easier that way. But if he can be kind of in the area while the unit goes and murders, right? So, like, the Hag Queen does a run while the daughter's unit goes, while the sisters go in and just blow something off the point. That's fine, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because then the witches could go run away, or sisters could keep running. I'm sorry, whatever, you know, and keep working, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So this one to me says you've got to be carefully thinking about not just what you're going to take, but what you're going to then expose yourself to in the next turn, right? What's their natural counter move? You've always got to be asking that question.
Yep. True.
Okay. Cool. And that's it. Obviously, we didn't cover the 6 in the core book because those haven't changed. So that's why there's 12. Okay. Ta-da! End of presentation. Oops. There we go. Now Tom's back. Make myself the right size here again. I'll fix that for next time. I'm going to figure out this PowerPoint situation. I'll get it eventually, because I want to make it so we can keep both of us on the screen. Yeah, so there you go. That's kind of all the scenarios. Anything else I think this is the strongest crop of scenarios we've ever had, and it makes me nothing but sad that we don't have events going on right now.
It's so diverse. Like, I hope we don't, like, majorly change it in the new world, in the new GHB. Because it is a robust set of scenarios that really challenge list building.
Yep, I agree. I would love it if GHB 2021, because let's be honest, best case scenario, most of us here in the States or the UK are going to get like 3 or 4 months, maybe. Like, I'm talking best case, right? This is my rosiest glasses out of this scenario pack before it ends, right? At any kind of real events. True. So my best case scenario with GHB 2021, and I know, like, given what's going on, that's in process right now, right? Like, that's what they're working on right now. So, hello again, GW. Hi, good to see you. Thanks for sticking through the whole show. Hope you enjoyed our talking about your wonderful scenarios. They were, I mean, really, you guys killed it this year. Here's what I'd like to see in GHB 2021, team. Keep everything basically the same. Just fix, like, jettison Starstrike, or change it in some way.
And Total Commitment.
And use the same map from Total Commitment, but move it somewhere else, right? Like, and move it into a different scenario.
Be like Tepid Commitment.
Kind of committed. Just like meh commitment. Sure. Yes, exactly. That's right. Okay. So with that, I think that brings us to the end. Tom, anything else you wanted to say?
Go play with some friends.
Yeah,
there's some good scenarios
here. Indeed. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this. Come back next week for Morathi. Don't forget to hit like. It's so easy. It just moves your little mouse over. You hit the like button. As well, while you're doing that, hey, guess what else is real close? It's that subscribe button. If you haven't already subscribed, hit that too. There you go. Calls to action. I keep reminding myself every week we should be doing that earlier in the show, not at the very end. But I never do, because I always forget, and I just want to talk about what we have to talk about. At any rate, hit like, subscribe, share this kind of stuff out there, all those good things. Really appreciate it. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next Wednesday.